Shaun Haney here with RealAgriculture.com and RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Well, it's been a long anticipated report. We've been hearing about the Standing Senate Committee on Agriculture and Forestry's look into soil health and the importance of soil in Canada. The report is out, and joining us to discuss it is Senator Rob Black. Senator Black, great to see you again.
Thanks very much, Shaun. It's good to be seen. Good to be here with you.
Okay, so before we get into some of the details of the report, let's talk about the why. Why did the Senate committee dive into this? Why do this at all?
So when I joined the Senate 6 years ago, I was encouraged to consider looking at soil health again. The Senate looked at soil health back in 1984 with the first soil health report, which Senator Herbert Sparrow from Saskatchewan spearheaded, and that report, now 40 years in existence, was groundbreaking and moved the soil health agenda forward over those past 40 years. So, over the course of my 6 years here, I've worked to get the study underway. And 2 years ago, we did get an order of reference by the Senate, from the Senate, and moved forward with it. So it's 2 years, about 4 years in the making, and 2 years underway.
Now, in the report, you recommend that soil should be designated as a strategic asset in Canada. You mentioned Australia and some of the work they've been doing. Making it a strategic asset, what does that accomplish? What does that do?
I think it shows Canadians and shows governments of all orders the idea that we need to look after our soils. As one of our witnesses says, we don't have another 40 years to deal with this. The UN says that by 2050, we could be 90% of our soil could be degraded around the world. So with Canada having 6.7% of arable land in Canada that we can work, and that number, it keeps shrinking because of other factors. We need to be critical of looking at our soil health.
Now, I'm sure that all the witnesses you talked to, no one said, don't worry about it. Soil, not important. I'm sure that didn't come up. But what do we actually do? Because I think at 100,000 feet, everybody's on the same page. It's when we get down to the 30,000 or 10,000 foot level, being a little bit more granular, where I'm sure there is some differences of opinion. So from your standpoint, what are the key recommendations here that Canada needs to embark on?
Well, I think the first 5 or 6 are most important, and I'm just going to turn to them here.
Yeah.
Designating it as a national a national asset, and putting in place a soil advocate. In Australia, they had a soils advocate. Penny Wensley was a soils advocate for 5 years, and prior to that, there was a previous one. That individual, that position, went across the country and advocated for soil health at all orders of government and with organizations and individuals. So we took that idea and are proposing it here. We also think there's need for an overarching strategy around soil health. What do we need to do nationally to make sure that we can have soil that will grow our food well into the future? I know that there's some work being done by the Soil Conservation Council of Canada. So this isn't a stretch. This is something that the government could support further and move forward with it. Collaborating with the provinces and territories, I think, is important. And what we found was there's a lot of good work being done across the country, but there's not a lot of sharing. And so putting in place a national portal, per se, an institute that might be a place where all data can reside, will support the country in the work that's being done.
What role does government play versus individuals or organizations? To talk about some of the differences.
Yeah, I think the government can support financially and through policy development. We did hear that there's a one-size-fits-all policy across this country doesn't work. We know that. You and I both know that. But the need for support financially and encouragement through policy development will be important by the feds. But this report should resonate, I hope, with provinces and territories, municipalities as well. There are municipalities out there. My own home county of Wellington County here in Ontario is doing some great stuff with respect to soil health and supporting agricultural farmers who are doing good things in Wellington County. But so I hope it resonates with federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal councils.
Now, one of the things you mentioned is there's a lack of data on soil health in Canada. Do you get a sense of how we develop more of a data set? Because if we don't have the data, it's very difficult to figure out where we're actually headed or what some of the benchmarks or KPIs are related to moving the needle on this issue. So how do we work on the data piece?
Sure, and not so much there's not necessarily a lack of data. There is some lack of data, but it's more the bringing it together. So work that's being done in Saskatchewan stays in Saskatchewan. It's not necessary. We heard that it's not necessarily shared with Guelph and Dalhousie and other universities across the country. So our recommendation talks about a national portal that all that information can be uploaded to, so that it can be shared. There is need work required around soil sampling and things like that in certain places. Again, I speak to my own province of Ontario. The provincial government's doing some good stuff, and have for a few years. So, but we need to see that across the country.
So just to focus on the information sharing for a second, what because of the regional differences and because of the difference in practices, if you look at what's happening, I was just in Halifax. You look at some of the practices there versus what you'd see outside of Swift Current. What benefit is the information sharing if we have such large regional differences? We heard that there would be benefit in sharing that information, so that how we deal with that with the soils in those areas, because we may learn, other areas may learn from what's being done. Any sense on where Canada stands relative to some other comparable countries, Australia, New Zealand, the U.S., England, and others?
I think Australia is far ahead of us, essentially because of their 2021 soil strategy and their soils advocate that they've had in place for about 10 years, until a year or so ago. England, they've got a strong soil. United Kingdom has a strong soil advocacy program and work being done through extension. I would say we're up there, but I'm not sure we're ahead of the pack. Hmm. And I go back to the fact that we don't have 40 more years to just let this slide. We need to work now. My concern is we're going to wake up someday down the road and realize that we can't feed ourselves, let alone the country or the world.
Okay, so I'm getting the sense, though, that we are behind when you say that. So what are you using to create that conclusion? Is it organic matter? Is it other soil characteristics?
Well, there's the rub. Even across Canada, we can't agree on what soil health means. And so that's another recommendation. Government needs to work with provinces and territories and organizations to actually determine what healthy soil looks like. So we can create a baseline across the province, across the country. Mine is just anecdotally when I speak to the fact that I did attend a few conferences internationally, where we did hear of some good things being done around the world. So that's where I come from. We're not way behind the eight ball. I think we're doing some good stuff, but it's time to step up the mark.
From a legislation standpoint, does the committee feel there are gaps there or things that need to be done on whether it's legislation or the regulation side, or what did you find with that?
We felt there was a need for more carrots than sticks. So we needed to encourage farmers, producers, ranchers to do good things. Lots of folks out there are doing good things, and we did see that as we traveled across the country. But certainly lots more can be done. I think specifically about rental property around, GTA and other metropolitan areas. Rental properties land is owned by developers and other entities are are rented out on a year-by-year basis. And we heard from farmers who will not put a significant amount of effort into maintaining that soil health because they don't know that they've got it for another a year after this. And so we need to work on those types of things as well, especially when you think about the property that's farmed around metropolitan areas across the country.
Now, this is the part that Canada does really well. The talking to stakeholders and putting together a report, the action component. What does the committee want to see from an action standpoint? Where do we go from here, from your point of view?
So the report was tabled last week. It will be, we'll move a motion sometime this week. I hope to send it to the federal government with the expectation that they'll reply to our report in a response within 150 days. And so that is a requirement. If we put it in the motion, that is a requirement. And my hope is that they'll respond to how they're going to move this forward. Will we keep an eye on it? Absolutely. My colleagues, I had to, I guess I'll admit that I had to talk them into undertaking the study, but the 12 individuals on the committee really bit down on this as we move forward. And so they're very excited about this report and want to see things move forward. So we'll be watching it. I think the final recommendation is the fact that the government should have an annual conference of federal ministers of government. The federal, provincial, and territorial governments give special consideration to economic viability. So when they think about policies there, it's meant to, we need to always keep in mind that farmers need to be able to make money from the work they're doing. So they can't be expected to do this without some support.
Yeah, good points there indeed. Senator Black, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Really, really appreciate it. I know this has been very much a passion project for you. You've talked about it a lot over the past number of times that we have had the chance to chat. So congratulations on completing the project, and we'll definitely follow up with you in terms of some of the implementation, the action items, and how the government responded. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Sean.